Thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. God, is it close to the holidays already? That's when YouTube videos actually matter. I better get to work. Which means no time for grocery shopping or fancy restaurants. HelloFresh, however, is here to make life easier. You can choose from a humongous variety of meal plans from all different cultures and for all ages. Burgers, exotic chicken bowls, pizzas, trust me, there's a lot there. And you can easily customize your weekly meal plans if you're feeling different, if you want to look out for your kids, or maybe you want more control over your choice of protein. When you don't feel like chicken, you feel like pork. And it's all delivered directly to your doorstep, so you save money on going out. Each box comes complete with easy to follow recipes so that prep and cooking take no time at all, and it's all wrapped up nice and neat, saving all waste and portioned just right to make sure you use everything in the box, or when you want a little extra to have leftovers for the next day. I work from home, so having stuff delivered to me is very convenient, and as someone who's trying to maintain a stable weight, I'm trying to make sure I put healthy stuff in my mouth. Something like their sweet chili pork bowl is legit one of my favorite recipes. It's incredibly easy to make, not too heavy on calories, and it tastes so good I almost began eating it before I filmed it for this bit. Well, I do love cooking, and HelloFresh thankfully keeps my hands busy. And they can keep your hands busy too with their amazing deal. Go to HelloFresh.com and use code SCMJ70 for 70% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com, code SCMJ70 for 70% off plus free shipping. 'Tis the season, ladies and gentlemen. And as always, their support is greatly appreciated for this channel, and I hope you enjoy whatever it is you decide to cook. Now then, shall we continue on with the show? You know, I can't believe it's taken me this long to play my first 3D platformer from Rare. I got Donkey Kong Country under my belt, yeah, as I'm sure was the case for a lot of folks, but you ask someone today what they know Rare from, their endeavors on the Nintendo 64 is what they'll likely bring up. They had GoldenEye, Banjo-Kazooie, and Tooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day. Maybe you'll get that odd one that'll mention Star Fox Adventures on the GameCube, but that person doesn't count, as I didn't grow up with the Nintendo 64 again. I was on Team PlayStation. All these acclaimed titles went right over my head, and all I could gather from friends that did play them was that they were beloved classics. But even years later, when I had easier access to a Nintendo 64 and its library, I still wouldn't consider giving these the time of the day. Outside of Mario 64, both Zelda games, Pokemon Stadium, and Smash Brothers, these games just didn't pique my curiosity, despite enjoying previous outings. And honestly, I couldn't give you a precise reason. It's true I did sort of wane from platformers starting in the early 2000s, but it's not like I stopped playing them completely. I was still playing Sonic games after all, and I suffered through Super Mario Sunshine. No, I just wasn't interested in them, and it's only now, years later, where I'm finally starting to change that. And Donkey Kong, did he get a debut in 3D? So the year is 1999. The Nintendo 64 was about 3 years into its lifespan, captivating Nintendo fans with juggernauts from Mario and Zelda, while Rare was already striking gold with 1997 GoldenEye, considered to be the pioneer in first-person shooters for consoles, and Banjo-Kazooie, released in 1998, that even today is considered one of Rare's best 3D platformers. However, Donkey Kong was still on their minds, and after giving the Super Nintendo and Game Boy their take on one of Nintendo's oldest IPs, they wanted to bring Donkey Kong to the N64 proper with a 3D game so large it would make all other 3D platformers look like ants by comparison. A game so large that it was one of the few that required the Nintendo 64 expansion pack, which doubled the console's RAM, allowing better graphics, better resolution, and better draw distance. In fact, Donkey Kong 64 was bundled with the expansion pack when it first released, so that consumers could, actually play the game, lest they get a bunch of angry parents after the holidays. Afterwards, the expansion pack was only needed for like 2 other games, I think, Zelda Majora's Mask and Perfect Dark, and that was another game developed by Rare. And I like to think this is because of a secret mandate from Nintendo. Like, look, don't make the game too large to keep needing the expansion pack, because if we gotta keep producing these things, those manufacturing costs are coming out of your fucking paycheck. But building on top of the engine they used for Banjo-Kazooie, Rare managed to successfully transition Donkey Kong from pre-rendered 2D sprites to full 3D models that could move and express themselves in ways that wasn't feasible beforehand. In holiday 1999, Donkey Kong 64 would take consumers by storm with a marketing campaign that was about double of what other games had at the time. It was around $22 million, dedicated to commercials, radio spots, billboards, and a Dr. Pepper promotion. That seems random. To win the game, drink Dr. Pepper. This is the most valuable tip you'll receive for Donkey Kong 64. It allows you to win before you actually play it. Wait a minute. Why would kids do that? They already bought the fucking game, or more likely their parents already bought the game. Why wouldn't they want to play it? Or were they insinuating that Dr. Pepper was a performance-enhancing drug? Can they say that? Is that legal? Ah well, Donkey Kong 64 proved to be a success for Nintendo and Rare, although it would be the last Donkey Kong game developed by Rare, as they would be acquired by Microsoft in the early 2000s. So did they end on a high note with Donkey Kong? Considering it was a critical and financial success, I want to say, just looking from the outside, yeah. However, I've also heard from different parties through the years that Donkey Kong 64 was a major factor in the 3D platformer dying off at the turn of the millennium. It's quite an interesting contrast, and after today, I guess I'll finally see the whole picture for myself. But for the sake of total transparency, to give you guys an idea on my position heading into this game, though I haven't played Donkey Kong 64 until this video, even I know that, especially being among my friends who have played this game in some fashion or another, this was a rather contentious game for different reasons. But among those reasons, the most consistent one I've found was fully completing the game. And I know, it's a safe assumption anyway, that that's the main reason why a lot of you are looking forward to this video. You guys were wondering if I was gonna go out of my way to fully complete Donkey Kong 64, because I can only assume the game isn't very interesting outside of that? I didn't know how to absorb that. Is this game only notable for what's required for 100% completion? Is it perfectly playable when you're not getting everything? Given my prior history with being burned by 100% completion, is it even worth fully completing Donkey Kong 64?
No.
No.
Nope.
No.
No.
Not at all.
Why am I here?
No.
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 Yes. Oh wait, no. I mean no.
Oh, fuck me. Well, I'm gonna do it anyway. Shit, it's my first time with this game. It's my first 3D platformer from Rare. Might as well start with a bang. As a heads up, I'm also going to be emulating my time with it. I own the game in all of its banana yellow glory, and I did play for a bit on original hardware, but my Nintendo 64 loves to crash with just the slightest fucking breeze. We're on the occasion where I accidentally shifted just a centimeter because I forget how short the N64's controller wire is. I figured since I was in this for the long run, work smarter, not harder, emulate it. And who knows, maybe with the help of cleaner graphics, more stability, the occasional save state to help save time, maybe I'll enjoy this. Maybe it won't be so bad. But just in case. Okay, here we go. Donkey Kong 64. A drink to celebrate the occasion. God help me. You know what though, I can already say this is a good looking game with great sound too. I love this little intro that plays right before you're taken to the main menu. It's kind of a dick move for Donkey Kong to throw a barrel at me just for making a selection, but DK's here to show you that he's back and large and in charge. Before any of this though, the game opens with the DK rap. This was something, believe it or not, I was first exposed to in Super Smash Bros. Melee. They remixed it there for one of DK's stages, and I remember back then I was like, what the fuck is this shit? And some lyrics were just incomprehensible noise.
What?
The original song is from this game though, and it's cheesy and about 10 years too late by 1999, I want to say. But I find it pretty endearing. It's a good introduction of the whole DK crew, how they play and what kind of obstacles to expect. But holy fuck, 5 playable characters. It's a Donkey Kong adventure, which means this video is probably going to be a marathon. I gotta talk about all these assholes, don't I? Well, Donkey and Diddy Kong were back, but the rest were brand new faces. Tiny Kong, the sassy girl who could shrink in size and float for a bit. Lanky Kong, the orangutan with stretchy arms and terrible gas problems. And Chunky Kong, the strong one, which I find out because Donkey Kong is described as being stronger than before, but apparently not strong enough. Can't even pull a basic ass lever without drinking a steroid cocktail from Cranky here. So did they add a whole other Kong to make up for DK's apparent lack of strength? I would have thought they'd bring back Dixie and Kitty Kong. I mean, a defining trait with Tiny is that she can use her hair to float for a bit, prolonging her jump. That's Dixie's stick, so why not just bring Dixie back? Maybe you can argue that Kitty Kong is less significant, granted, but I think he could have been what Chunky ended up being. A super strong Kong that was also a total chicken shit. I mean, even think about picking him in the character select, and he's already filled with anxiety. I just find it strange that they aren't even given a passing mention. Not from what I can tell anyway. Going back to the graphics though, a lot of Donkey Kong Country's aesthetic translated very well in the 3D. But it is certainly more cartoonish than before. The sound design is also full of a lot of Saturday morning slapstick, as if this game was directed by Hanna-Barbera. I assume this is a holdover from Banjo-Kazooie because I recall that game rocking a similar vibe, going off what I remember through osmosis throughout the years anyway. It works for Donkey Kong though. It did remind me of Gex 2 on the occasion, and whenever you enter a new world for the first time, how the camera flies through the level to get yourself familiar with it, I kept thinking to myself, holy fuck man, this is just the Gex 2 opening. Wow, widescreen option in 1999 no less. How very progressive for Rare. I thought the inclusion of Star Fox Adventures was something. I played the game in standard, just to be clear, but it's cool that Rare was even thinking of players that had TVs that would eventually become the standard. The soundtrack this time was composed by Grant Kirkhope, making it his first and I think only time he composed an original soundtrack for Donkey Kong. I don't count the conversions he did for Donkey Kong Land 2, and like the graphical presentation, this too is more cartoonish than previous soundtracks. If I wasn't already aware it was made for this game, I would have easily assumed it was made for a banjo title. It's pretty bouncy and fun, but doesn't contain the same atmosphere and moodiness as what David Wise and even Evelyn Fisher composed for previous games. I still liked it, but it doesn't exactly fit my Donkey Kong Country vibe. Nothing immediately stuck to my head, even after spending considerable time in these worlds, which I think is saying something considering how fucking long. Okay, we should probably get things started. You know, I always thought that Donkey Kong Island being in the shape of Donkey Kong's head was something that started in this game, and would you live in an island that was in the shape of your head? There's something very Twilight Zone about that. But when I go back and look at the island's original look in Donkey Kong Country, no, it's also shaped like his face there, but I don't think it's as obvious, but still kind of makes me feel stupid not realizing it until now. But in the outskirts of the island, King K. Rool once again approaches in his sailing fortress. Yeah, he's got a whole fucking fortress on a boat this time. He'd do well in Wind Waker. The Mad King is through putting up with Donkey Kong shit, so on top of kidnapping DK's friends, he's also planning to wipe out Donkey Kong Island with a huge ass cannon. Holy shit, just blow the whole thing up. Talk about using a more direct approach. They really amped up how sinister King K. Rool can be in this game. He always had an air of intensity in the other games, only counterbalanced by the antics he suffers at the hands of the DK crew, but in this game, shit, they give him a deep ass voice.
I want you to do everything in your power to keep Donkey Kong distracted. Steal that hoard of golden bananas he treasured so much, and take care of his pathetic friends. This time there can be no mistakes.
The first thing we hear out of his mouth is his Darth Vader-like breathing. They keep him out of the camera's view for a bit to play up the mystique, giving him this whole Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget vibe, and he's such a dick to his goons too. King K. Rool ain't messing around. His minions are still as incompetent as before, but the man himself is pretty intense. I like this iteration of the guy, and I'm glad he's gone back to his king attire instead of whatever the hell this phase was. But somebody please get my man some fucking clear eye for his one eyeball. That shit is just out there. It's like one half of his face is normal and the other is going through a coke-induced rage. The cannon, fortunately, needs time to charge, so Squawks the Parrot rushes to warn DK that the king has returned, and he's kidnapped all of his friends. And so after learning some of the basics thanks to Cranky, who's taken an interest in the sciences for some reason, we all have our hobbies, especially after your fucking wife passes away. Yeah, this took me by surprise. Wrinkly Kong died in between this game and DKC3, and I'm like, well, damn, she still helps us as a ghostly apparition, but that was sudden, and I sort of feel bad for Cranky because he was already an asshole, but now he's an asshole who's all alone even in the quietest hours of his day. Anyway, Donkey Kong sets off to explore his island, rescue his friends, and stop King K. Rool from wiping out the island. Bearing a few cutscenes showing King K. Rool being a jerk, there isn't much else to the story, standard Nintendo platformer stuff. Your objective is clear, so go out and get shit done, and we only got Donkey Kong to start with, but he along with the other Kongs share a basic pool of maneuvers. Movement has a very Mario 64 feel to it, but ground control is a little smoother overall, only getting problematic when platforms and other terrain get too narrow for their own good. Like seriously, what the fuck is this shit right here? It's terrible. You have a high jump to get some extra air, Diddy Kong probably having the best one I feel. You have a long jump to cross larger gaps, and a rolling maneuver that you can spam to go a little faster. Although I ended up not doing that, especially for Donkey Kong, because every time he rolls he sounds like he's taking a shit. You also got some basic 3-hit combos whenever you need to wipe out some goons, on the off chance you don't feel like using your handy orange grenades or whipping out your fucking piece. Yeah, Donkey Kong and the others just have guns in this game. I mean, they're G-rated guns. They don't fire bullets, but rather coconuts, peanuts, pineapples, and such. But there's just something funny seeing DK whip out a shotgun and going, yeah. You get all these by visiting Funky Kong, no longer a free spirit who surfs the skies or builds boats. The dude runs a fucking armory now, and he's dressed for war. I mean, he's not wrong, it's literally a life or death situation, but it pains me to see what war does to even the coolest of dudes.
War is hell.
The gunplay is okay. You use it for long-range targets like zingers or switches to activate some puzzles. It's not a bad option for combat overall, but there's no manual lock-on, so shooting things in third person is not the most reliable thing. It's easy for shots to whiff. This is assuming you can even kill them with the gun, because some enemies are only vulnerable to grenades, and it might take you a bit to realize, shit, this isn't working, I just wasted so many peanuts. But they give you a lot of ammunition. You can find them all over the place in these ammo crates. You can even visit Funky whenever you want to get a free refill. And later on, you'll get some homing ammo, and it's a little rare, but it helps pretty well. I find it better with this game's first-person mode. You'll be using this mode most likely to hit things with some degree of accuracy. Hey, no, this this works just fine. You can even hold the Z button down to slow the cursor speed, which is a godsend when you're playing this on emulator or virtual console, because analog movement can be so sensitive on modern hardware. Even today, I still recall the dread of having to complete the shooting gallery games in Zelda with virtual console analoging. Well, it makes me want to drink. I didn't learn about this feature until the second to last world though, and it was by complete accident, so don't do what I did. But other than boss fights, combat never gets any more complicated than seeing a goon, smacking said goon, and moving on with your daily life. So with your fists or guns, whatever floats your boat, combat never asks for much. I didn't even bother fighting unless it was required for progression or a collectible. Amongst everything else this game requires you to collect, killing a certain quota of enemies thankfully is not on that list. Now, I found it a little cumbersome having to switch perspectives a lot and having to remember which button combinations brought out the gun or go into first person mode and then bring out the gun. That made my brain explode initially. Because the N64 only has 2 main face buttons and because every developer on this console has a fucking allergy to the D-pad, the C buttons are used for extra features, but you also gotta tilt the stick in a certain direction while also pressing the correct C button to activate certain features. And as you unlock more abilities that require different combinations, it's easy to forget what does what at times. God, I wasted so many screen nukes. These are also something that every Kong gets after visiting Candy Kong the first time. Holy shit, Candy Kong, my god, okay, so she was already like the fan service Kong, but they really gave her the pop idol treatment for this game. I shouldn't be terribly shocked. These are the same people that gave us Sunflower a huge pair of knockers. It's just slowly but surely someone's kinks are becoming less and less subtle. And listen, if you want to masturbate to a fictional monkey, you do you. I don't care. It's just, keep that shit to yourself. Anyway, Candy, on top of giving you permanent health upgrades, because yeah, that's a thing you have now in this game, she gives everyone a musical instrument that you use to unlock passageways or hidden goodies, but perhaps more importantly, it's a screen nuke, killing everything close by with little to no restrictions. It doesn't even cost you ammo if you use it on one of these musical pads needed for progression. I like that. And it's charming seeing every Kong get their own unique instrument. DK gets the bongo, so it's this game I complain for that lame-ass final smash and brawl, alright. I'm surprised they didn't give Tiny the guitar given that she's the Dixie replacement. Probably didn't want to make it too obvious. I don't mind Diddy rocking out with it, but I think he should have kept his boombox in DKC too. It just seems more up his alley. Or did Cranky take it for the DK rap? What a prick. Chunky gets the triangle. Who did he piss off? You know what though? Don't count the triangle out. People can do some mad shit on that tiny thing with enough dedication. I've seen it. Lanky gets the trombone. I got no punchline for that. And the script was written before I learned that trombone simulator was a thing. Everyone can also get special potions from Cranky after enough progression. This is where you get the character-specific abilities, which are needed to nab some gold bananas. Though some potions will give every Kong a new move, like a ground pound. I gotta stress again, why the hell does Donkey Kong need a potion to get the ability to pull a lever? That is some of the most arbitrary shit I've ever seen. Anyway, the most annoying thing about this was figuring out which Kong had an upgrade or not. You can only get character upgrades by heading into Cranky's lab with that character. And to help with this, they usually give you a tag barrel right outside the shop. But because you can't buy upgrades for other Kongs, this means having to leave the store, heading inside the tag barrel, making the switch, going back into the store, seeing if the upgrade is available, then you repeat that for every Kong. And it's not just with Cranky, you gotta do this with Funky and Candy upgrades too. But with them, it's not as bad since most of their upgrades are generic ammo increases that applies to all the Kongs at once. It's the constant back and forth that got under my skin, but little did I fucking know. Okay, so the main objective of Donkey Kong 64 is collecting enough of these golden bananas until you have enough to unlock the next world, and eventually the final encounter with King K. Rool. They're the main MacGuffin that every 3D platformer had around this time, the main reward for completing the challenge given. Every Kong has 5 golden bananas dedicated to them in every world, and since the quota isn't very high for entering new worlds, this gives you a healthy degree of freedom on what golden bananas you can collect just for the sake of moving on. But I'm not just moving on, aren't I? So the game starts off, I got Donkey Kong, I get a feel for the controls, everything seems relatively standard. Got a little worried with the vine swinging, not realizing at first that it's super automated. I thought you had control over the swing speed, but no, it's like the 2D vines in the country games, only it's 3D. So once you got a good position, you can just jump from one vine to another by pressing the jump button in time. There you go. Donkey Kong Island acts as the central hub, and outside of being the host for other worlds and a few collectibles here and there, I was shocked by how little there was to do here, and I was waiting for it too. I was wondering, alright, there's several places I can go, a couple of things I can nap, but the platforming didn't ask for much. Oh man, look at how expansive the underwater area is. I was waiting for it. I was waiting for some large ass fish to suddenly pop up and swallow me whole, but it never happened. In fact, besides hosting one of the next levels, I don't think you do anything underwater. I guess I'm just taken aback. They give the island so much underwater real estate and almost nothing is done with it. I mean, as someone who hates dark underwaters in video games, I'm grateful? I don't know anymore. Alright, I unlocked the first world, Jungle Japes. Typical jungle theme that I would expect from the first world. I don't have much to say about this one because it's the first world. It doesn't go overboard with challenges and serves as a nice playground and get accustomed to the controls. I see I got some regular bananas to collect as well as these banana coins, which you use to buy upgrades from Cranky, Funky, or Candy Kong. Despite having the classic bananas though, Donkey Kong 64 doesn't have a traditional life system. You can die as many times as you want and keep going as long as you got the time and the willpower. Quitting the game is hilarious though because it shows King K. Rool getting ready to nuke the island, which he can now do freely because your ass decided to stop playing the game. That's so mean-spirited, but it's a logical conclusion. So then, what's the point of regular bananas if there's no lives? When you manage to collect 75 of them in each world, you get a banana medal, which you need a certain amount of later to play a minigame Cranky offers, and this is mandatory by the by, since the reward for beating that game is a token needed to unlock the final boss. Bananas are also needed to reach the major boss of a world. You gotta feed this hippo enough of them so that his fat ass weighs more than his pig friend, letting him unlock the door to the boss. The pig and hippo got nipple rings. You know, I'm beginning to think the folks behind Rare have personal DeviantArt pages, if you know what I mean. Anyway, you'll rescue Diddy Kong in no time, and now, alright, this is where I can start exploring some more areas. I noticed a couple of spots earlier that I couldn't access without Diddy Kong. I'm the kind of guy that likes to immediately explore what's available as soon as it's available, and now that Diddy Kong was available, that's where I'm heading to next. But before that, I did notice that Diddy Kong says that he can collect red bananas. What do you mean by that? Can bananas even be red? Oh, it turns out they can. A favorite in Central America as a form of aphrodisiac juice. Diddy's got the horny bananas. This chimp fucks. But Diddy has his own bananas to collect, and now suddenly Jungle Japes is full of a bunch of Diddy stuff that wasn't there previously. Not just red bananas, but red banana coins too. Oh yeah, something to highlight. When you're buying upgrades, all the Kongs don't share the same currency. They have to use their own, so happy hunting. But here's another thing on top of that. You can only collect a character's collectible when you're playing as that character. Until then, they're transparent, they're faded, and they can't be picked up. And right then and there, did I see the big, immediate problem. It was like a cosmic explosion going off in my brain. But not really thinking too much about it, then I press on. At some point, I've done pretty much all I can with both Kongs, collected what I could collect. So I feed the kinky animals here and fight the major boss. To talk about this now, I really like the boss fights in this game. They're a little samey early on. The strategy doesn't involve much besides throwing a barrel at them repeat as needed, which I understand isn't really different to how you dealt with the bosses in the country games, but I expect a little more in a three-dimensional space, and early on that's not what you get. And you do fight two of these guys twice, so the variety ain't there either. But as you progress, these guys get more intense and require much more dexterity all the same. Hell, the King K. Rool cardboard cutout you faced in Creepy Castle gets so tight in precision that you almost need fucking future vision to line up the shot for the final hit. Actually kind of pissed me off. Alright, Angry Aztec, the desert/temple world. Not too shocked to see this is the second world. Mario games have conditioned me to expect this. I didn't really mind this world, but this is where the game starts to get segmented. First off, this is where you unlock Tiny and Lanky Kong. Yeah, it really doesn't take you long to rescue the other Kongs. I was thinking this is going to be a tougher endeavor, but they really don't ask much to rescue these guys. Can you spell the word Kong? There you go, you just rescue Tiny. Lanky doesn't ask for much either. As soon as you do that though, now their collectibles are available, and now the world was covered in bananas, coins, and balloons and all flavors. It's all coming together now. I'm starting to see the bigger picture. And this is where you'll start to see liberal use of the tag barrel. This is how you switch between characters, and it's the only means of switching between characters. So when you're hopping along, going about this area with only one Kong, only to realize, wait, shit, I need another Kong to get past this bit or get the golden banana. So you gotta haul your ass back to the closest tag barrel and get the appropriate Kong. Now this isn't as bad as it sounds sometimes because every world has these warp panels. Once you activate a matching pair, you can freely travel between both panels, saving you a bit of time on backtracking. I just hope you remember what panel takes you where, because I sure as hell didn't. It was my first time after all, and this game has no map feature, and some of these areas are getting pretty fucking large. Sometimes I was able to recognize I was going the right way by certain landmarks, but most times I was hoping I chose the right panel because I got nothing else to go off besides the warp number. I think it would have been better if you were able to like choose a warp point based on the ones you already activated, something from like a drop down list or shit. You know, when you're choosing a jump location in the Zelda games, yeah, that would have been nice. Angry Aztec is also where you start to get access to a Kong's specific abilities, marked by these special barrels and floor panels. Every Kong gets something special, and your mileage may vary on how interesting, fun, or infuriating they might be. Donkey Kong is nothing too special, he just gets temporary invincibility. Temporary invincibility not being too special, what the fuck did I just say? You're using this to cross hazardous terrain like quicksand or hot lava or deadly brown in order to get a gold banana. Tiny can shrink in size, letting her enter small passageways, and that's fucking it. She's still just regular ass Tiny Kong after the fact, so Chunky becomes chunky, and he can go apeshit on certain terrain or pick up large objects. This isn't so bad. Lanky can inflate himself with air, I hope, and he can flow for a bit before he runs out of steam. He also gets a speed boost with his handstands, and I didn't mind this. I even thought it was pretty fun going at high speeds and getting some of those elusive golden bananas. Yeah, this included some of the more infamous encounters. God, so many of you mentioned the second race against the beetle and the foot race against this rabbit. I mean, yeah, they're precise, especially the rabbit. I think I only won this race because his ass got stuck behind an enemy for just long enough. I won by a hair. Eat shit, you jerk. The beetle racing I thought was a great challenge. Sliding down slopes, just barely edging past cliffs. It's exciting. I liked it. I think it's a little unfair that the race begins before you're able to enter the special barrel because that takes about 3 seconds to kick in. That gives the beetle a head start in a way it doesn't feel intentional, like it was an oversight. Really, the only thing I didn't like about these and a few other similar challenges was not only needing to win the race, but also collecting enough DK coins required throughout. Like, you can win first place by a mile, but that shit won't count if you didn't collect enough tokens. I'm like, well, what the fuck is that about? A race should just be a race. Adding a required collectible on top of that is just overstuffing the challenge with needless shit. The beetle racing, the cart racing, the minecart sections, they all got this shit, and it's the one sour part I didn't like about them. Okay, the minecarts, I just didn't like this shit, period. On top of collecting the tokens, you also gotta avoid obstacles that come left, right, up, and down all over the fucking place. And very suddenly too, requiring you to tilt the cart in every direction, controlling its speed and all that. Also that you don't get hit and hold on to your tokens before you reach the end. If you don't, you gotta start over. I hate this shit. I'm getting off track though, my apologies. In terms of the special abilities, Diddy I think got the worst of the bunch, the jet barrel or the rocket barrel, the jetpack barrel, there's a lot of names for this one. You take off to the sky with your jetpack that miraculously does not immediately combust considering that it's made of wood, and you can do a few things with this. You can shoot hard to reach switches with your guns, you can fly through rings, as you do, or even light candles with the jet exhaust. Pretty neat, it controls like shit. What is it with me playing games with the jetpack is so ass? Okay, it's more like controlling your altitude and turning at speeds greater than 1 mile per hour controls like shit, and I want to say for most of your time with the jetpack, this isn't that much of an issue to deal with. It's just those handful of times where you gotta be accurate with the thing was so infuriating that it soured my whole opinion on it. The owl race probably taking the cake. You just gotta fly through rings in a given time. That shouldn't be hard to comprehend, but it is mainly because the challenge comes from fighting the jetpack's wide ass turning and the hilariously wacky hitboxes. What the fuck? Why didn't that count? I went through that bitch. How didn't that count? Lost my shit a couple of times playing this one. Like, this was way worse than the fucking beetle or rabbit. Why didn't anyone mention the owl? Some of these abilities also require a good supply of these crystal coconuts. For a second, I thought these were the gems you can collect from Croc. They look so similar, but they're basically fuel for your special skills. And the game is pretty good about giving you enough to handle upcoming obstacles. There was only, I think, 2 times where I was hurting for these things, both involving Diddy Kong and his jetpack barrels, you know. Another reason for my dislike of them. I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep harping on it like it's the second coming of Satan. Hey, anytime I could just fly at my leisure and find different bananas by exploring the skies, that's when I really like the jetpack. When I also discovered that I can hold my altitude in place with the Z button, that made things a lot better, for turning especially, but I didn't find that out for myself until the end of the game. I don't know, did Cranky say I could do that when I first got this? I need to look back at the footage. Oh fuck, he did, I'm just blind. Clearly I'm not drinking enough of this shit. The third world, Frantic Factory. Now this is where you rescue the final Kong Chunky, and now the gang's all here, and now my pain truly begins. You like classic Donkey Kong? How about completing the entirety of classic Donkey Kong with 1 life to get a mandatory collectible? Twice. I get respect in the classic, but what the hell were they thinking? They do this kind of shit twice. Once you get enough banana medals, Cranky lets you play Jetpack. Now this was one of the first games ever created by Rare, back when they were known as Ultimate Play the Game. God, that is a deliciously 80s name. And this game isn't so bad. I appreciate the history lesson, but it's an early 80s console game originally made for the ZX Spectrum, BBC Micro, and the VIC-20, VIC-20. I think 2 of these are made up. My point is, it's old, like classic Donkey Kong, so control is limited, it's pretty tough, and getting a high score is mandatory to finish the game. Good God. But back to the main game. You see, I'm the kind of guy, especially when he knows he's fully completing a game for a video or stream or otherwise, it doesn't matter. I don't exactly know the meaning of the word efficiency, doubly so if it's a game I never played before. So if I know where a collectible is, I don't consider the possibility that it might be easier to collect later when I get an upgrade or 2 to make it easier. I try to make it a thing to collect it as soon as I possibly can. I do this for a lot of games. Mario, Sonic, Metroidvanias, oh my god, I am so guilty of doing that there. That's why most of my first time playthroughs are like 4 times as long as my repeated visits. When I was collecting those purple crystals in Ratchet Going Commando, that was that mentality in full fucking effect. This game is that compulsion's worst nightmare. Jungle Japes, I was only in that world for about an hour, maybe a little less so. Angry Aztec, since I had 4 of the 5 Kongs at this point, that took about twice as long. By Frantic Factory and beyond, I was now spending 3 hours plus on almost every world, and it was all because of how you're supposed to collect shit in this game. And that's it. That's the thing about Donkey Kong 64. Like, the number of collectibles is high, sure, and yeah, there's a lot of collectibles. You got the colored bananas, the banana coins for currency, the battle crowns you get in these arena challenges, these rainbow coins that give every character 5 banana coins apiece. I actually really like finding these. The banana medals for getting 75 bananas with each Kong, blueprints that you give to this weasel who can help you make the final stage easier depending on how many you collect. The banana fairies, guess you can consider these the follow to the banana birds if they were humanoid and they had big boobs. Rare's got a titty fetish for both guys and girls, so I welcome the inclusiveness. You gotta take a picture of these guys for them to be considered collected though. They give you more crystal coconuts to use on special skills as you collect more of them, so it's worth the hassle. It's just timing the perfect shot can be a little tricky. As long as some part of them is inside the circle though, it should be fine. Whatever. But anyway, back to the collectibles. Yeah, there's a lot of things to get for full completion. Everything eventually leads to getting more golden bananas, and those are ultimately the main collectible. But really, it's not the number of collectibles that bothered me. I think that's pretty standard looking back. It's the process required to collect them. A process so bothersome, so meandering that half of my fucking notes was me bitching about the game constantly yanking my chain with that shit. This is how most of your time collecting shit in this game goes. You're playing as one Kong. You get to a spot where another Kong is needed to progress. Okay, you go back. You switch to that Kong. You go and open the way. You collect the goodies you find. But oh fuck, look at that. There's another collectible here for that Kong that couldn't reach this pathway in the first place. So now you gotta make your way back to the tag barrel, switch to the right Kong, retrace the steps that you just did with the other Kong to get that one measly banana or blueprint balloon, whatever the fuck it is. Ugh! This sort of bullshit is everywhere in Donkey Kong 64, where you're going back and forth so many goddamn times because there's maybe 1 or 2 things you need multiple Kongs to collect. What this results in, you're basically playing all of these worlds front to back 5 fucking times, 1 for each Kong, because the collectibles are fucking scattered, they're everywhere! The colored bananas, the character-specific panels, the different switches requiring a specific gun, the banana balloons, the bane of my existence, the Donkey Kong equivalent to the fucking blue coins. You see, it's not enough that you need 75 bananas to earn a Kong's banana medal for that world. There are 100 bananas total in each world for each Kong, and originally I thought, oh man, I gotta collect all of them to count for full completion, don't I? Turns out, you don't. You just need to get 75 to get the medal and you're good. I just thought I had to get 100 anyway because I thought it would give me a golden banana, because so many other platforms gave you some sort of trinket for getting 100 doodads. But either way, you still need to go beyond the bare minimum in later worlds because the boss gates get pretty stingy with the banana count. So just for safety's sake, I went for 100, and what constantly tripped me up were these banana balloons. They hold 10 bananas apiece, so that's like 1/10 of your total goal. That's a big deal, yeah, but these things can wind up in the most out of sight, out of mind locations, high and low, and Donkey Kong 64 doesn't have the best draw distance when it comes to certain objects. You won't even see these fucking things until you get close enough to them, and this caused my fair share of retracing my steps, and when I saw I was 10 bananas off the max, I was like, it's a fucking balloon. I know it's a fucking balloon. At some point, I just cracked and loaded up a strategy, got on GameFAQs, and did things step by step. And you know what? Having a guide on standby, helping me locate things I had trouble finding, was kind of nostalgic. I was taken back to my younger days when I did just that with a lot of games I played growing up. In that way, I found the scavenger hunt kind of enjoyable. But there comes a point where it's too much, and Donkey Kong 64 crosses that line as early as the 3rd world, and there are 7 full worlds to explore in this game. The 8th world is just a linear gauntlet, and not a bad one at that. I like how it utilizes all the Kongs in one last scuffle against King K. Rool, but it isn't nearly as large or complicated as the other worlds. It's more of a victory lap. Until you get to the actual boss fight, it's a fucking marathon of phases that you gotta do in one life or else you're back to the beginning. Man, you need to chill with that shit. But as someone who had the intent of going for everything in this game because it's what you guys expect, and because I had to see this journey for myself, this journey takes a nosedive once you have every Kong, and it doesn't help the next world after Frantic Factory is Gloomy Galleon, a larger than necessary water world that's aesthetically unpleasing. You gotta deal with all the backtracking nonsense with collecting things, and now you also gotta deal with changing the water levels to reach certain areas. After playing this, I don't know why the water temple is considered so infamous when Gloomy Galleon is like 10 times worse. You get access to Unguard at least, whose model sticks out like a sore thumb. He looks like a plastic toy compared to everything else in this game. But he's only one of 2 animal buddies you get in this. It's him and Rambi, and you can only control these guys with one specific Kong. Donkey Kong gets control of Rambi, Lanky Kong gets control of Unguard. Why? Why did they do that? Why limit the animals like that? They end up so underutilized, and you only need it for like 2 golden bananas. Such a downgrade from the country series. Shit, even Donkey Kong Land. The next world afterwards isn't much better fungi forest because instead of changing water levels, you gotta change the time of the day, as some areas are only available during the day or night. What this means is more back and forth on top of more back and forth. I have to keep stressing that because this is my first time playing this. I don't know the most optimal way of playing these worlds, you know, that should be obvious. And for my first time here, God, I was all over the place, covering every square inch for every banana, every balloon with every Kong. I also ran into my only glitch, where this grinder is supposed to spin so you can blow it up with steel drums and get the banana behind it, but for some reason, it just stopped spinning. Made it impossible to complete, and I had to reset to make it work again. And I looked it up. This is a known bug, but you know, it's the only one I ran into, so at least the game is stable when you're not intentionally doing moon jumps and other shit that I've seen speedrunners do. Look at them go. Crystal Caves, I think by this point I was numb. I don't remember much of this place outside of the second beetle race. Oh wait, right, this is the place where this douche constantly causes stalactites to fall from the ceiling no matter where you are. That was fun. Oh, it was also the place where you had this stupid fucking rotating maze with Donkey Kong that also has bananas to collect. For some reason, just touching the wall does like half of your fucking health. What the shit? Besides that, I don't remember anything else. I couldn't tell you why. Then you got Creepy Castle, and I really like this world. In fact, I think it's the best world in the game. If for anything, managing to streamline the process of getting every collectible with the Kongs. It's got a great central hub for warp panels, so traveling up and down the castle is no hassle at all. The challenges are pretty fun. No real bullshit I can think of, bearing 1 or 2 bonus barrels. We'll get to those in a second. Man, why couldn't every world be like this? It's a lot of fun. At least this obnoxious journey had a silver lining, but the damage was already done. I gotta be real, this became a matter of obligation hours ago. At one point, I even briefly considered saying, oh, fuck this, I'm just playing the game normally because I was so weary halfway in. And I gotta repeat, I'm emulating this shit. I am using save states to cut on backtracking, as I think anyone who wants to play this in 2022 should consider, and still, I was growing tired of all this shit. And it's not even just like the zigzag and collectible hoo-ha that can drain you. There's a lot of bonus games you gotta play for these golden bananas. And a good chunk of them were fine, but some were definitely not. What were they called? Baddie, Barrel Bandit, it's just slot reels, Big Bug Bash, that was pretty jank, but it was doable. The stealth games where you had to complete the maze and avoid detection was fun. Any game where you had to shoot things was also good. Busy Barrel Barrage, Kremlin Kosh, Crazy Kong, Clarence KKK, someone didn't proofread that. I felt like I was playing Carnival Midway games for an oversized stuffed animal with these, but I did enjoy them. But because I wasn't playing this on original hardware, there's 2 of these, like, I shit you not, they're impossible without pause buffering. So the original game, right, on the N64, it lags like crazy, but the game was designed with that lag in mind. So what it'll do is it'll speed your characters up to accommodate for the lag whenever you run into it. It's pretty ingenious, actually. But what do you do when you're playing on a console that removes that lag, like an emulation or on the virtual console? Well, now suddenly that speed advantage is gone, and these games are next to impossible to win without proper accommodations. Now, this made me laugh more than frustrate me. I want to emphasize, I'm no stranger to pause buffering to make things easier. I used to do that shit all the time back in the day, but you should keep that in mind if you're thinking about playing this. Maybe playing on original hardware ain't such a bad play. Beaver Bother was one I heard so many horror stories about from both you guys and friends, and after finally getting to play it myself, I didn't hate this, I was just more perplexed. It's a very simple game. You gotta scare these beavers into this butthole in the allotted time. That's it. That's all it is, but the game cannot make up its mind on what it counts as correct. I don't know if it was intentional that the collision on these edges is as good as it is, or if I'm just doing it wrong, but these beavers would just not go into the fucking hole. I found it easier to approach the beavers from the flank. It gave me more consistent results at least, but even this didn't work all the time. I'm literally doing the same strategy that worked earlier, and now it's suddenly not working. Why? I don't get it. A simple game made unnecessarily time-consuming because of unclear programming. I think what Beaver bothers me most about the bonus games in DK64 is the humongous variance. Now, there were more bonus rooms than you can count in the country games. Blast barrels, collecting stars, grabbing letters, they had it all, but they were all still platforming challenges, remaining consistent with the game's core foundation. In DK64, it's a fucking roulette wheel, making you play a whole bunch of different games with different rules and different control schemes. Slot reels, mine carts, spinning turtles, rescuing banana fairies from clap traps, and I got a lot of these killed looking back. I'm so sorry, ladies. You get used to these, you'll get better at them, and some aren't so bad as I said, but this is too much. And if you're not down with some of them, well, It doesn't get much better as you go along. In fact, they only get harder. This whole game is just excessive. I'm thinking to myself, would this be any better if I wasn't worried about getting everything? I gotta be honest, I don't think it would in my case. You need a certain number of golden bananas to meet the level quotas, meaning you'll probably play those mini games you may or may not like. You also need enough small bananas to unlock the boss fights so you can collect the main keys that unlock the final area, which means you're still going back and forth tagging out different Kongs all the time. The backtracking, even when you're not going for everything, is out of this world more than anything I've ever experienced in a platformer, and because tag barrels are the only means of switching Kongs, you can't avoid the large number of trips you gotta make. Man, I wonder how much faster this game would have been if you could just switch Kongs in the flat, because that's what makes all this such a pain in the ass. I was made aware of a mod that allows you to switch Kongs with just a button press like it used to be in the country games, and from what I've seen people say, it makes the game so much faster, so maybe consider that for your first time? I'm not sure. I think understanding the full context of the original release is important, but I also believe if there's a better way of playing the game, which I know in of itself is subjective, then just go for that option. You don't gotta do what I did, where I spent a long ass time talking about an experience you didn't fully enjoy for the sake of content and a paycheck. Stay in school, kids. Oh, God. Over 25 hours was my final... Over 25 hours was my final time, but accounting for save states, I want to say that was probably closer to 27, 28. Still, for a platformer in 1999, that's just fucking absurd. But there are still things I can appreciate about this game. Like, outside of all the damn collecting, this game is still a great platformer. When it came to the actual platforming, I was having a good time. And this game has plenty of that, offering each Kong a different flavor to boot. And individually, as playable characters, there were things liked about every Kong. Donkey Kong, well, actually, he became my least used Kong after I got the other, so hey, some things never change, am I right? I guess if you want to do that moon jump shit, that's a quality trait. Diddy Kong, I love his agility and his overall control, bouncing high in the sky with his backflips and spring jump. That's the kind of fun I like to have in these kind of games. Tiny, to a similar extent. I always love a good glide skill and platformer, so in that way, Tiny was cool. Lanky, I'll be honest, didn't have much going for me. I like this goofy fucking walking animation, and whenever he jumps, he says, hoopla. Hoopla. And that just reminds me of SpongeBob. And I'm a guy who likes going fast, so you gotta say again, I really like the high-speed handstand stuff. Chunky is just the kind of guy I like for combat. My preferred choice for those battle arenas because his dash attack, the spinning lariat, it covers so much area making these a cakewalk. The shit you can pull off when you're traumatized beyond belief. When I started unlocking more Kongs, I was worried that I was going to have to go back to previous worlds and collect their banana coins to unlock cranky upgrades that I might have missed in those worlds particularly, but the devs thought of this and made it so that future Kongs don't have to worry about that. Upgrades are designed in a linear fashion so that they accommodate for a Kong's late arrival, which means you can just continue along as soon as you unlock these guys in future worlds and not miss a beat. And though I was going for everything anyway, that's something I know would make any casual playthrough less taxing. The total amount of golden bananas to collect is 201, but you only need about 100 to reach the final boss, so you have plenty of flexibility on what bananas you want to grab and don't want to grab, just for the sake of finishing the game. But I also think that only matters in hindsight. Unless you're looking at a guide, minute 1, you're not gonna know what bananas are less bullshit than the others, and I don't think you should be looking at a guide anyway for your first run. Kinda defeats the purpose of a first playthrough. I only did it because I have other shit to do and because I got another game down the docket that looks like it's gonna be a fucking nightmare to complete too. And at the end of it all, is it even worth it? I mean, do you even get anything for going the full 101%? Well, yeah, in some regard. Perhaps the most innocuous thing was the blooper reel where the Kong family are rehearsing for their next game on the Dolphin. That was the prototype name for the GameCube. Well, I hope the other Kongs got residual checks anyway. It's okay. It's good for a chuckle. The actual reward comes from collecting all the banana fairies. You can rewatch all the cutscenes, listen to the DK rap to your heart's content. You can replay all the boss battles and bonus games if you want a more direct route to the pain, you masochist. You unlock Crusher for the game's multiplayer. Oh shit, right, this game has multiplayer, doesn't it? I wasn't even going to consider this until I was reminded that Parsec was a thing. I think Rare figured we got something good going with GoldenEye, so let's give the Kong family some guns and watch them go apeshit. A Planet of the Apes that you can play. Good thing Cranky didn't think of this, otherwise Donkey Kong might have been a very different game. This ain't a bad time. It's standard 4-player free-for-all stuff. You can shoot up in different areas or go head-to-head in battle arenas. And as I found out, really brings the inner monkey out of you.
Murder. My bananas.
I mean, you hate to see them like this, Jim.
Parry that shit, you fucking casual. What is this? to
That's the review. That's it.
The banana fairies also give you a cheat menu. Infinite ammo, banana coins, crystal coconuts. Now you can play Donkey Kong 64 with reckless abandon, or, until you get bored. Considering the long winded road I just traveled and the copious amounts of Dr. Pepper I just drank, and the kidney stones I'll likely have to face later, I hope this video is what you guys are looking for. I really do. And for those that didn't play this game but wanted to understand and experience the pain of this journey, or at least watch someone else experience the pain, I hope you guys now have an understanding, you fucking jerks. But now what? I mean, the video's over. The punchline has been said. I don't know how to cap this video off. Well, actually, now that I think about it.
Here we go. So I'm finally done reviewing this game. It makes this one look fucking tame. Put your hands together if you wanna slap this fucking jerk for all this crap. TK, Donkey Kong, he's the leader of the bunch. You know him well. This icy maze was utter hell. His coconut gun can fire in spurts, but his shitty aim makes my testes hurt. He's bigger, faster, and really strong. Oh wait, my bad, that's Donkey Kong. DK, Donkey Kong, DK, Donkey Kong is here. This Kong's got style, so listen up, dudes. She took Dixie's job, and that's just rude. She can float through the air and climb up trees, but every Kong climbs fucking trees. If you choose her, you'll not choose wrong, but she still took a job.